Okay, welcome back. This is the prologue, the re-recording of the prologue for the night route, since my initial recording did not completely work the way it was supposed to. And it's actually kind of a good thing because I decided to change the name for my night. So we're going to go ahead and do that with just our new game entirely, which I did with the ambassador, but I kept the same name. So this time we're going with Ihab, which means gift. Kind of fitting for the night. Same last name as the ambassador and the nomad. They, them pronouns, and say human hybrid because why not? It's kind of weird to record this without streaming it because I'm used to streaming it and having my Twitch channel up on my other computer. Heaven and hell suppose two distinct species of men, the good and the bad. But the greatest part of mankind float betwixt vice and virtue. David Hume. The country of Errant is the kingdom of Novus, a place steeped in a bloody and tumultuous history in its climb to glory. The king and queen hold peace over their domain, but with questionable means. Military strength is as powerful as ever, and their researchers toil over new ideas to advance the run, sometimes in ways most would question. Lofty and comfortable, yet at the cost of power comes the hubris of man. One of Novus's most celebrated knights, Sir Errant Kingdom, has served the crown for many years, and is well loved by the people. However, his love and ambition soon stripped him of his rank of knight commander when he disobeyed the crown in favor of his own morals. His dishonorable discharge has sent waves of enemies rippling across the kingdom, only serving to fuel the people's distrust in their rulers. To replenish their softened ranks at his wave came a new knight hailing from the kingdom of Vithris. Appointed for their impressive potential and promise, they joined the ranks of Novus to better serve its rulers. Hence me choosing a name that means gift. And yet, shortly after their arrival, dissidence and discord comes to a head in the form of an attempt on the lives of the king and queen. While they remain living and breathing, flesh and blood, their would-be assassin is still at large. Copying or distributing the game and its assets is punishable by law. When you steal from an indie developer, an attractive demon loses their horns. Prologue, on the precipice of change, which I have not been saying the titles, but the place is quiet. Everything is on lockdown, every inch of its corridors being furiously scoured for evidence, every courtier questioned, and all eyes are turned towards the shadows. Tensions are higher than I've ever borne witness to here, and it would appear that change is the anthem for this year in Novus. This affects all of us. I stop myself from becoming too overzealous and feeling so involved, to being more involved. I think back to the time when I was inducted into the kingdom, a knight to serve Novus given by Vithris, a rising challenge, but from here I can only watch and wait. For now, anyway. My boots are heavy as my steps echo throughout the empty halls. And I forget to do this, so we will do that. Okay. So you can see the original name that I picked. And now, I'll save remember that. I will fix the save later. The cling of my armor almost a comfort as it breaks the silence. Though not for long. Until I see her. Knight Commander Vasile. God damn. The Harbinger, the Angel of Death. No matter what you might call her, she's an imposing, almost suffocating presence. She descends down the spiraling staircase, the low candlelight making her obsidian armor look like dancing shadows. Her heels click like impatient fingers, and her pale blue eyes are reminiscent of a hunter stalking its prey. They narrow as she approaches me, and she makes no effort to obscure the fact that she is wary of my existence. She's done nothing to make me feel unwelcome amongst her ranks, but it's likely that the fact that I'm an outsider in her company gives her pause. My arrival was supposed to be a show of good faith between my kingdom and hers. However, as I'm quickly learning, good faith means nothing to the watchful eyes of Novus's Black Knight. It holds its breath to relate the recent events, and barely a month into my new station as a knight in service for the kingdom of Novus, the lives of its rulers have been threatened. So, we know that the ambassador just arrived earlier in the day. On the evening of their arrival, there was an attempt on the lives of the king and the queen. So, the knight was actually the first to arrive in Novus and begin working. But I started with the ambassador route because when the story starts slightly earlier than the story for the knight, and the nomad story starts the following morning after this one. So that's part of the reason, and so I'm going to keep that pattern. The last tap of her boot reverberates in the halls, and she stands before me in assessment. Report. The voice is clipped, and today she'll clearly suffer no fools in her midst. I fully intend to refrain from looking like one. The western wing has been scoured, and all occupants with thoroughly questioned. No one is permitted to leave even after the investigation is completed. Any and all access points have been fully secured, and we've informed the nobility that, like everyone else, they must stay where they've been placed until told otherwise. It's been made clear that it's imperative that they listen to that command for both their safety and ours. Libya's brows climb towards her hairline, and she acknowledges me for a moment, letting the information sit inside until she seems almost content with my concise answer. I'm assuming your lack of mentioning any new information means our flock of scared birds have nothing of value to say. The disdain in her voice doesn't go unnoticed. Flock of scared birds. They did not. I've had little chance to get to know my captain who's stationed here, but I have a suspicion she harbors little love for the nobility. Noted. Then you're to check the eastern wing and do just the same. Once we've established that the pass has been scouted in full, we'll need to reconvene and move on to discussing the city's fate. Understood. I bow deeply to her, and when I rise to meet her gaze, she looks indifferent. Those striking eyes pin me hard to the spot, watching, waiting. She's as unmoving as ever, and I know I'd better not depart just yet. Tell me something. You haven't been here long, and you've yet to see Novus in its entirety. How do these events sit with you? The Knight Commander doesn't clarify, and I think to ask her what she means. But before I can gape at her like a fish and actually ask, I think better of myself and give an answer I hope to satiate her scrutiny. Just another day at work. Surprisingly, it's exciting. An assassination attempt on the lives of my superiors does not bode well, really, does it? However, this may sound strange, but it's exciting in some way. Her eyes narrow at my answer, but the response isn't surprising. Explain. I don't wish for the Lord and Lady to be in harm's way, but I'm confident that we can deal with this threat. I place my trust in the efficiency of Novus's knights and their countless successes. I'm not trying to lay it on too thick in the interest of avoiding looking like I'm kissing her ass, but words travel fast of the accomplishments of her command. It might not be possible to find this would-be assassin, but working within such an esteemed unit brings me pride. The answer must amuse her because she chuckles at me. It's refreshing to see someone uplifted rather than carrying at the task at hand. You'll do well to remind yourself, however, that the accomplishments are not yet yours. You may be part of the unit now, but the accomplishments so far were achieved before joining it. Don't you know? So I am interested to see how you perform. I can tell that she's not impressed with compliments, not supported with actions, but that small, albeit brief, lift at the corner of her lips at least tells me she's intrigued. Livia gives a slight tilt of her head. The questioning is over. Report back to me when you're done. My hand clutches the palm of my sword, my fingers sweating with anticipation, and I bow to her once more. With haste, I begin to make my way to the eastern wing. Making my way. So yeah, I was doing voices, but I decided not to because trying to remember what voices I've been doing was a pain in the butt. Yeah, so I decided, depending on where I'm at in terms of recording the Errant Kingdom chapters, I might finish doing those and then stream the revamp of When the Night Comes when it comes out. But again, it depends on where I'm at in terms of recording the Errant Kingdom chapters. Probably, regardless of which way I go about it, whether I finish what's already available of Errant Kingdom and then go on to When the Night Comes, or whether I switch to When the Night Comes when the revamp comes out and then go back to Errant Kingdom, I'll probably be able to finish, I'll probably end up finishing both and then going from there. Who knows, maybe Commander will be available by the time we finish with both. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, we'll focus on Errant Kingdom because 3D. Calm, precise, and efficient. That's all I need to be. The eastern wing isn't far, which should be where the Knight Commander was headed from what I can remember of the vast network of hallways. That is likely means that the Court Mage and the Demon Ambassador are there. Silence sits stagnant throughout the hallways, minus the rhythmic clicking of my armor, and it's reassuring to know that no whispers can be heard. Whispers of True's courtiers not heeding our warnings, that is. Behind the wind, I hear voices carrying through the halls, and I think better than to quicken my pace, first purposely slowing my stride. Few occupants, I believe, and only one speaks in a hushed tone, that voice softer with a hint of an accent. The other is deeper with a consistent, almost devious edge to it. I wonder who these two could be. I think I recognize them at least. It sounds like Lady Masha and Ambassador Veritas, as I suspected. I didn't think that these two would defy such strict orders, well, maybe one of them, and linger where they shouldn't. I can't help wanting to know what they're speaking of. My curiosity gained the better of me. I know I shouldn't, but everyone is a suspect for the time being. So, walking at a marginally slower pace wouldn't be too terrible or nefarious, right? Aware that it concerns everyone. I know that you know, dear, and for this, what I hear is broken, but just enough to determine that they're likely discussing the attempt. Carefully, I close the distance, and their words begin to make sense. Far be it from me to assume you don't know everything living for as long as you have. Hear me, do not merely imply that I'm old. You know as well as I do that I'm positively ancient. I have not known them long, but the playful sarcasm from Ambassador Veritas was absolutely expected. With another laugh, I'm glad to find that's not my own. Being discovered as an awkward third wheel, giggling in the shadows after the remark, wouldn't have been ideal. I won't pester you further, but I'll tell you now, I do not think it to be our beloved Sir Nister. Beauties, my dear. Nister? The legacy of the disgraced Knight Commander is still on everyone's lips, even a year after the event, it would appear. He was once described to be so loved, but is now spoken about as if he's only a vile and treacherous man. It makes me wonder what his true nature is. You're not pestering me, and I know you wouldn't share words with me simply for comfort. I appreciate it, truly. I don't think it to be him either, but still. Eric may not have been heralded for his decisions, but he was renowned for his love, the great love he has for the kingdom and its inhabitants. He was not named a noble knight for being an imbecile. Worthy or not, I don't think he would try to unmake what he protected. I cannot speak for the man, but the Eric I knew would not be the villain he's made out to be by some. There's a pause, and then, thank you. I gathered that whatever intimate details I didn't want others to hear have passed. Now seems to be as good a time as any to approach, not wanting to linger too long and make myself an obvious eavesdropper. I come closer, circling the corner. The two stand a few steps away from the entrance to the lodge and turn to greet me at my approach. Lady Marsha, as always, gives me a kind smile when our eyes meet, and a small knot of guilt churns in my stomach at her warm welcome. So when I look to Ambassador Veritas, there's a smile there, but behind the lines a kind of wicked, knowing acknowledgement. There is a chance they're aware I was there the whole time, but I can't know for certain. They always seem to know something, after all. I had to remind myself it would be easy to think that when I know so little about them, both of them, for that matter. Maja places a hand over her heart and gives a slight curtsy in my wake. Lucian mirrors her movement, but with a bow instead. Knight Kadir, it's a relief to see you in good health. That it is. A preferable way to find our protectors, usually. I pause. Usually? They nod once. Yes. Maja tucks up the demon, clearly amused by their odd sense of humor. They seem quite pleased with themselves. I gather you're here to see us back to our designated room? Yes, there's been no sign of the attacker thus far, but for your safety I have to ask that you return. We currently have no way of knowing if there were multiple individuals involved. If there was tension in her posture, I didn't know until now, because Tanisha looked to decompress ever so slightly. That is why, yes, and I apologize for our disregard of the danger. And as inappropriate as it may be sometimes, it was by my request that Ambassador Veritas escort me here. The surroundings were a bit too stuffy. So he steps out for a brief reprieve, if you will. I would look to the ambassador and they nod in agreement. I would not let Marsha venture out on her own, however. I believe we leave the others more at the mercy of danger than us. Assuming you've not seen the kinds of storms our lady here can conjure, I worry for the simpletons that would dare threaten her, let alone anger her. She laughs at the comment, but supplies with confidence, as do I. Their familiarity with each other is nice to see, but it also has me at a loss. If I felt like I was intruding before, which I certainly was, I feel that way even more so now. I clear my throat. I look forward to it. It's an awkward comment, and I'm certain I hear Lucian snort, but I ignore it. No need to ponder further about their mirth that slipped from my lips. Again, until otherwise notified, please stay with the others. I still need to search the remaining chambers for intruders. Once the sweep is complete and the Knight Commander gives the word, you'll all be cleared to leave. We have the utmost faith in your abilities, Knight Kadir. May your search turn up nothing. Melisha middle taps middle as my hand meets my breastplate in a salute. I watch them recede back into their room, but before I see her disappear behind the door, Melisha stops. She turns to peer at the moonlight that cascades through the windows, basking in the glow, the same way you might relish in the rays of the sun. For a brief moment she smiles, closing her eyes. She looks at peace. Her eyes open, they make contact with mine, and she offers me a smile. She places a delicate hand to her heart and curtsies once more before disappearing behind the heavy doors. It shuts softly despite its size, and the clerk lets me know they are finally safe. Confident that the two are quite clearly very capable of protecting themselves, I begin my search. I had to adjust my headset a bit. So far, my search has remained uneventful, but with that incessant tapping I hear that certainly isn't coming from me, I suspect that might change rather quickly. If I'm not mistaken, this particular chamber should be vacant. It's used by few people and not frequented often, and the rustling comes from behind the sturdy door. It's not a noise a simple rat might make. With my hand clenched firmly on the pommel of my sword, I approach slowly, taking hold of the door handle, and immediately, with no obvious means of concealing himself, I see a white-haired man perched squatting awkwardly on top of the study table that sits in the room. He makes no effort to move despite my obviously hostile presence, and the only thing that makes him bother to cast me a glance is the sound of my sword as I free it from its sheath. Put your hands where I can see them. Pair of dark eyes meet mine over the top of the book that he clutches in his gloved fingers, a book that appears to be upside down. On purpose? And falls to the floor with his thud as he raises his hands. Could you not see them anyway? Do you have bad eyesight? I ignore the jab and quickly assess the situation, taking note of the breeze to my right, the balcony doors left wide open. The assassin cannot pass him without meeting my blade, but... You won't get me. I'm sorry? I said you won't get me. I'll be out of those doors and in the tavern before you can say, "Cut one!" Cocky, this one. Is that so? I lie in my stance, standing my ground. Such the idle chatter won't deter me. I study him as best I can, and his smile is wide and toothy. It's not a little smug. No, it's definitely smug. What's a fair knight like you doing in a palace like this anyway? A knight in a palace? What are the chances? I catch myself an assassin. I find myself baffled to the point where I might have actually forgotten what I'm supposed to be doing. This must be part of his tactic. Some annoying, dismissive banter. A knight in a palace is unusual? I thought maybe you would be familiar with such a place, considering you seem to have slithed your way in here so efficiently. He scoffs, his nose crinkling in amusement as he lowers his head to his side. He's awfully calm for a man with a sword at his throat. The glittering scarred skin on both his face and neck tell me he isn't unfamiliar with pointy objects. I meant that you're not from here, are you? My eyes narrow. I'm uncertain of what it is about myself that gives off that impression. No, I'm not. Is it that obvious? Again, he scoffed. I mean, then he inclines his head quickly, a skittish movement. His face is almost serious as his muddy-colored eyes look to the door behind me. I'd better, He sidesteps to his left, his gaze still casually fixed upon me, and my weapon that's still poised to strike. You don't think I'm just going to let you walk out of here, do you? The house is on lockdown. How did you even get in? He laughs at that, an insufferably obnoxious chortle. Apparently he's so wildly entertained at the prospect of being caught, so he insists that will happen, that he continues to move without a care. Do not move again. He pauses a beat and drops his arms to his side, so for the first time, he thinks he might start listening to me. Ah, that's cute. You're cute. See you around. As I suspected it would be, his cooperation is short-lived. Smiles softly for a second, and then swiftly darts for the open doors, for the balcony. I strike out with a broad stroke, but he's fast, rolling forward and evading the tip of my blade by a hair as he tugs up his hood. He casts me a glance over his shoulder as he perches on the edge of the barrier, standing tall and proud. With a nonchalant shrug, he leaps. I rush the balcony doors after him, but my effort is fruitless. All I see is a shock of white hair falling gracefully into the darkness, and a noise that can only be described as a joyous scream echoes from the palace courtyard below. I could only click my tongue at the ridiculousness of it all. What a glaring mistake on my part to believe that a thief in the night wouldn't think to leap off of a building to escape. I've done that often enough, playing Assassin's Creed. It's fun. Hopefully someone as careless as him will be caught by another come sunrise. That's the thing, you don't know him well enough. He's not that careless. I close my eyes and take a breath. My hand clenches the hilt of my sword on reflex as I slot it back into its sheath. When I open my eyes and turn for the door, I see a tall figure staring me down, and you smile, playing across their lips. Oh ho ho! I need to stop myself from lashing from pure adrenaline inside once I realize who it is. Ambassador Veritas, you shouldn't be here. The orders given were quite clear. Oh yes, so very clear. They agree dismissively, apparently more serious about the open windows behind me, and climb their head towards the open balcony, the long golden accessories on their horns clinking together. Seemingly undisturbed by the curious event that just unfolded, they laugh? Are you hurt, Ambassador? You soon look surprised at that. They give me a warm smile, their pointed canines cresting over their bottom lips. What? Oh, no. Oh, not at all. I'm quite fine, thank you. It was a simple enough question, and I didn't intend it to be funny, but somehow I feel like I'm missing the joke. It probably won't be the last time either. I've come to notice just how much they love to have a chuckle. So I find some relief in it and relax a little now that I can see no sign of immediate danger. I'm just perplexed at how unconcerned they are, considering an intruder was just in this very room. Say where I can see you, Ambassador. I can't guarantee that he's not still around. They nod and step away from the balcony, finding themselves a lavish and gaudy seat to recline in. Of course they would. Everything about their body language contrasts mine, languid and fluid versus rigid and alert. I continue to survey the room while they watch, their eyes bright in the darkness, chin resting in a clawed hand. Mere seconds pass before they address me. I can assure you that he's no longer here, nor are we being threatened at the moment. Their tone is dismissive, but my eyes are still trained upon the shadows of the space that we share. You sound awfully certain under these circumstances, Ambassador. A trespasser left this room here seconds ago. Trespasser he might be, but Raiden is more of a familiar nuisance, and a guest of mine. A guest? This must be a joke. I turn to them, and the face I make must be incredulous, because they laugh heartily at the sight while they remain ever so relaxed in their seats. Ambassador, everyone is presently a suspect. As such, I'm sure you realize a comment like that doesn't sit well for you. They nod again, their legs crossing lazily with a slight bounce to them, an elegant hand extending out to me in a recent, almost complacent gesture. That I do, and do not misunderstand, for I'm not belittling your investigation. I'm merely helping you narrow down your suspects. My head tilts. I mean no disrespect, Ambassador, but you expect me to believe that? Because I don't. They nod in understanding, but their playful nature hardly dissipates. I realize that this makes me a target as well in harboring such a man. Mind you, is it not suspect for the king and queen to also employ a demon ambassador? This gives me pause. It's unusual to say the least, but Lucian has been nothing but welcoming and kind since my time here, deliberate playful air of mystery notwithstanding. I can't assume to know what their reasons are, but I'll take it into consideration. So, until I find the person responsible, my eyes are on everyone. Their hands pull back, and they resume resting their chin upon it, a hum of agreement falling from their lips. Invoking the words of dearest Livia, you're not wrong. The way they address the Knight Commander is passive, an afterthought. Clearly, the ambassador doesn't find her to be as imposing as most in the palace do. Since we're here for the time being, I would like to ask, who do you think is responsible for this? What comes to mind of such an individual? My eyes shift to the balcony before turning to Lucian again, and their own gaze looks to glitter with curiosity. Okay, I need to take care of something super quick. It won't take long. Okay, I'm back. Okay, now this is a good question. Who do you think is behind this? I feel like it would be angry citizens. I don't know why, but it's you. It's his turn for me to determine how the city folk feel about their rulers. It's entirely possible the people have rallied for reform. I have yet to see unfairness in the military ranks or of the rulers, no signs of something insidious, yet for all I know, I could be seeing what I am meant to see and not what is. As a knight, my needs have been tended to well, but I don't know how others within the city without my title fare. It's possible they want for more. Lucian looks directly at me, a pause and then a sigh. We all want for more. They tap their golden-tipped claws against their lips with a pensive expression, and finally they rise from their seat. As I said, there appears to be no danger or an imminent reappearance from the previous occupant, and that puts me at ease. At least, a little. I'll remain here for the time being. There's no need to worry about me. Though I will say, I hope you're prepared for such a thing to happen again. Again with a cryptic comment. Do I assume you know something I don't? The ambassador puts a hand over their heart, their posture as welcoming as when I first met them, and they shake their head with a fond look. I have seen many a kingdom rise and fall. I'm merely supplying that anything is possible. Unconsciously, my hand grips the hilt of my sword once more. I can't imagine the things I must have seen with the longevity of a demon. May you find yourself the answers you're looking for, fair knight. I suppose all I can hope is that I won't have to bear witness to the fall of this one. Okay, I've made my decision on who the knight is going to romance. That's not going to stop me from flirting with everybody. Because that's half the fun, is flirting everywhere, and no consequences. No one gets hurt if you don't choose to romance them. My day was long, but the night was even longer. I've been relieved of my duties for the evening after reporting to Livia, but anxiety stays with me even as I sit in the silence of my quarters. Lucian's words reverberate in my mind, and I can't help but think back to everything that happened tonight. I'm merely supplying that anything is possible. Having nothing of significance to share with Livia feels flat. No sign of our intruders, no sign of anything. Speaking with and trying to calm the residents of the palace easily took up most of my time, and ended up being the most tiring of my tasks, unsurprisingly. I suppose Livia was placated in knowing that no one was found, at least that's what it seems like. She's difficult to read. Before I retired here for the evening, I was informed that my given duties on such an important day tomorrow are patrolling. There are more than enough knights to speak to the nobles and safeguard the palace, but the news is underwhelming, disappointing either. But I won't let this go to waste. I'll put myself to use somehow. Orders are known. The name rolls off my lips with a little laugh. Mr. Lucian had mentioned him while speaking with Maja. In my recent experiences with the Grand Archmage, she always seems at ease, amicable, and ready to approach. In that small, brief moment, she had seemed so tense. I suppose likely because of what had just happened, but she doesn't strike me as one that's easily shaken. I'm already disregarding my warnings of having some patience, curiosity gripping me like a vice. I was told to patrol and that the city streets are also within my care. Seeking to find the former Knight Commander wouldn't be agitating the situation, but assisting it. Right? Regardless, Dawn will arrive in a few measly hours. Hopefully, if he's as much as a drunk as I've heard him to be, local watering hole won't be too much of a stranger to our mistress. I finally stand on aching limbs and drag myself to my quarters. I'm thankful that sleep finds me easily. The city continues as I'm sure it always has. Merchants are renting stalls for the markets, couriers running from place to place, children running through the streets. All the noise intermingling into a chorus that is life in the kingdom of Novus. They don't yet know the horror that almost transpired last night, and for the moment they can carry on worry-free, busy only with the day-to-day tasks that harry them. If their lucky life will remain this way for them, and the assassin will be but a memory. Part of that hope lies in finding Errant Kingdom. After a few hours of patrol through the streets, it seems like a good time for the taverns to start filling up. I thought that maybe any tavern would do, but everyone seems to be pointing me towards the Pauper's Crown. I figured it was probably easier for them to direct me towards any other tavern to rid themselves of a knight not looking to drink, but they were consistent with their information. One even went as far as to say that Pauper's Crown is the only establishment that could tolerate him. It would appear that he's not particularly well liked, not in these crowds anyway. Maybe they're just bitter he's not stuffing his gold into their pockets and drinking them dry. The place is easy enough to find with the brightness of morning, its deliberately tacky sign swinging with an ear-splitting creak above the entrance. I can already hear the light that drums inside and the smell of the swill that permeates the wood. When I enter, the reaction is mixed. Some laughing faces sour, others blindly look and then turn away, and some pay me no mind at all. The woman behind the bar at least affords me a polite nod before she continues serving her customers. I vaguely remember what he looks like when I saw him during a visit to Novus some years ago. I surveyed the room. Not terribly busy, but almost immediately I think I see him. A large figure nursing a tankard near the window towards the back, a bedraggled mess with a thick golden mane that certainly doesn't look freshly washed, and a handsome face that somehow seems wrinkled beyond his years. I assume he opts for a window seat so he can see the sun, but the view looks right at another building, scant 10 feet away. I really do think it's him, but seeing the sorry sight almost makes me wish it wasn't. You know that old saying, don't never meet your heroes? Still, I approach. Some patrons look over to me as I finally make my approach, but possibly Eric doesn't even bother sparing me a glance. About to wave him over until I feel a pair of hands grab my wrist, and a lively individual near spins me around. Hey, it's you! It takes me a second to process the person means me. It's me? Yes, you! They nod excitedly, their carrot-red curls bouncing just as animatedly as the rest of them. I need to speak with you. Come with me. I have no idea what this pointy-eared and sharp-toothed stranger is getting at. They're either drunk or playing games with me. I really don't have time for this, so please. I wait for them to unhand me, but instead they give my wrist a good shake. Their eyes are wide, and they offer me a toothy grin. Really? So do we go with them, or do we resist? We'll go with them. I stare at them blankly, waiting to be released, but it doesn't come. I sigh and nod at them, and those brown eyes twinkle in delight. They seem pleased that I'm going along with whatever this is. Oh, wonderful. This should take but a moment. I wait to hear what they need to speak about, but they shake their head. In private, please. They usher me outside the establishment with a polite gesture that says, "After you." My patrol took me several hours. It should be a small setback in hindsight, but my irritation grows. Turning back to where I came from, they follow me and now towards the side of the building. The sun is high in the sky, and I'm doubtful that they try to pull something shady on a person in a full suit of armor. I humor them and step aside, and they opt to stand against the wrecked wall of the building, the picture of lazy contentment. Their eyes close for a moment, pulling off the hood of their cloak, and they lift their chin to the sun and smile in its warmth. "So, you claim to know me?" "Can't say that I do, I just needed your attention." I scoff at their admission. Why am I not surprised? Surprise wasn't the goal, remember? Point taken. State your name. You're a stiff one, aren't you? Forgive me for thinking introductions should work both ways. They smile and tilt their head back and forth, side to side. Fair, fair. Well, knight, are you a pixie? Please, just give me your name first. They chuckle again, absolutely beside themselves for wasting my time, it seems. Okay, you may call me Rue. This time the answer is earnest, and I nod. Ihab. Again, Rue, state your business. Rue fishes off the wall and down and throws a nod back to the building. They regard me a bit more seriously this time. I think that gesture indicates my would-be charge, Eric. So what do you do this time? Throw a straw up in another tavern? Scare off some farmer's horses from his bed? I blink once and purse my lips. Words for Eric made a drunk for dreams true then? What, you were looking for him, right? Eric, I mean. I just need to ask him a few questions. Is that all? My mouth closes shut, and I think more carefully on my words. That's all, yes. I needed to see the man for myself to get a better grasp on a recent incident. I pause, contemplating admitting the whole truth, but I reconsider. Perhaps I can build some trust here. It will become news quickly that there was an attempt on the Lord and Lady's life. I let the declaration settle in, waiting on their reaction to gauge what they think of it. Maybe the shock of it will let them know exactly the gravity of the situation. Instead of excitement or fear, they sigh. Something that looks like a sad, tired expression crosses their face, and they steal a glance in his direction again, then at me. So that's the run of it, is it? You think maybe it was him? I have reason to believe he's a suspect. Maja seems to be worried about him, at least that's what I gathered. Didn't seem like herself. Of that much I'm sure. Perhaps it would have been more strategic to ask her instead. The revealing I'd been listening to what was very much a private conversation doesn't bode well. I understand you need to do your rounds, but I don't think you got a good look at him. Did you look at him? Really look at him? My eyebrow raises. I don't know what you know about Eric, but I assume you know something, being a knight and all. But the man isn't looking to throw himself off an even bigger cliff than the one that tossed him off of. Then I'm excited to buy my tanker. Prettiest shade of amber, he says. He doesn't deign to involve himself with them anymore, rumors abuzz and whatnot. You must know it would be difficult not to think of him as a suspect. It's hardly uncommon for a man dishonored such as himself to seek revenge on those that dishonored him. Easy to think if you don't know what him or what happened. And you do? I know enough to know it wasn't him, if that's what you mean. I take a breath. It's just me. It's just that. I don't know Eric. He was as deeply loved as much as he was demonized, but Rue's responses suggest they sympathize with him. I try again. I met him once before, years ago when I served in Victus. He was still Knight Commander, overseeing potential recruits for the Order of Novus. He seemed like a good enough man then, sharing tales and friendly banter with the recruits at our table, training and advising them. If he was as good of a man then as he was when he served here, I can understand the polarizing response. You're right, I don't know him, but I want to give him a fair chance at least. I hope he can prove my suspicions wrong. This honesty seems to speak to Rue. They cross her arms, their lips puckered and shifting this way and that in thought. That sounds better than the other crap your knobhead comrades usually start with. Well, that gives me an easy smile at least. I want to believe you as much as anyone wants to believe in a good knight these days. I want to believe in Eric. I always have, and my gut tells me it's not him. Since you've come here to question him, that means your target has been found. I'd like to think he wouldn't do the job sober. That'd be a funny sight, stinky man pissed up to his eyeballs, seen tumbling around outside the palace. Can't help but let her laugh at that. but clear my throat quickly. Getting back, I look for Eric again, and just as I suspected, he's still in his seat, a second taker resting behind what I assume to be his now empty purse. I intended on speaking to him about it, but your tone suggests that might not be the best idea. Their nose crunches and they shake their head. The stories say that he disobeyed an order from the crown and made it into a bloody scene. The lives of his comrades forfeit because of him. That was rescinded, and the rest, I suppose you know. Rue scoffs loudly, and they sneer. Their pointed teeth bare just a bit under pink lips, and for the first time, I see them annoyed. That's scary when you see someone like Rue or Raiden annoyed. Oh boy, look out. Heard that one before, one of many tales. They paint him to be this perfect monster, but not the truth of it. They turned their backs on him, the king and queen, made him go against his morals to uphold their law. Eric wouldn't have it, and so they made him an example. It ruined him. I'm sure he'd love to have a few words with them, but he has so little drive. What's left of him is parked here in the pauper's crown. Knighthood wasn't the only thing he was robbed of. To me, that much is clear. For a man so large, he looked like he wanted to shrink in his seat. We keep an eye on the old man, and he didn't look fit to pull off any big moves yesterday or today. Even if he did, I doubt he thinks he would get what he wanted out of it. We? A friend. If anything, he probably annoys Eric so much that he'd be the first on his list. A laugh, then a pause. Kidding, of course, just a jest. The subject is clearly a sensitive one, and despite the passing of a year, Eric hasn't forgotten. I want to know how the events played out from him, but a knight such as myself is not likely to coax it from him so willingly. Provided I don't incur his wrath, I just want to at least try and ask him. I do appreciate you telling me, however, before I can finish, someone approaches us from the street, and more pointedly approaches me. They're clad in the same armor as me, a knight of the palace, and I turn to salute. The knight commander requests your presence immediately. Has something happened? The palace is still secure, but she instructed that you'll be part of an escort for a party headed to the town square. Understood. I had in mind to bid Rue farewell and thank them for giving me information despite our bizarre encounter. When I looked to find them, they're gone. Another time, perhaps. I look to the knight again and nod. Let's go. You thinking of these characters in terms of other games. It's really funny. Olivia stands resolute behind the heavy desk and waits while the door glides shut as I enter. Have you anything to report on the state of the city? I shake my head and recount my patrol route, all the mundane details. She nods, neither upset nor surprised as before. My scouts tell me the same. No one who's dispatched reveals anything enlightening. Are you disappointed? Disappointed? I have not assigned you to something similar? You expressed excitement before. Ah, that. I did indeed express excitement. I lived to expect to read of me and remember. You caught me. I certainly want to assist the efforts in whatever way I can. Which is why I brought you here. I think I catch a glimpse of a smile as she looks down to where she clutches a large squirrel. Bide your time. Your moment will come. Regardless, a weathered map unfurls from her hands onto the table, and she smooths out what looks to be a depiction of the city. Her gauntlet taps it once and moves it in a circuit. There will be an announcement formally addressing this right upon the top. This will be the route that we take with an entourage of others to the square. Yourself and a handful of comrades, along with myself, will be escorting the nobility to give the speech. We are to guard them then until it's over, and when we return. The route that she outlines is open and direct, easy for archers to take their mark, and I can only wonder why such a choice was made. I must ask, from a strategic standpoint, isn't this leave us vulnerable to attack? Olivia nods, eyes still fixed on the map. Yes, however, it's the quickest route. Everyone in the group is dispensable. Dispensable? The king and queen won't be present during the speech for that reason alone, so yes, everyone is dispensable. One of the nobility will deliver the speech in their stead, and a public appearance from them will not be furnished until we have more intel on our target. I dare not question her again. I don't know who exactly amongst us forbids there aside from us for certain, but she means that she doesn't even have concern for herself. Such is the nature of being a knight who pledges himself to the crown, but the manner in which she says it so readily and without so much as blinking leads either admiration for her commitment or fear. Understood. Good. It's simple enough. I doubt that a would-be attacker would pull anything off with a full complement of knights waiting for them. And should they attack, there's a chance they will give up their position and will make it that much easier to find them and run them down. That will decide how clever our ambitious enemy believes they are. Now, do you have anything else to report? I think back to last night, to the intruder I found first in the library. I know Lucy and Clancy meant no harm, but I can't in good conscience keep such information from my commanders. Actually, yes, there is one thing. It appears we have a test problem, specifically in the ambassadorial wing. Her lip curls with unconcealed disgust. Oh, I'm fully aware of that particular test. You are? Dreadfully aware. As though the plan to trust the demon's words, I'm sure he's not the assassin we're looking for. He frequents Ambassador Veritas like a rat to an open pantry. So he is not a guest, and he is not welcome here. Slippery bastard. Her irritation blankets the room, and I feel a certain discomfort at the thought of continuing to discuss the matter, but should you see him again, please escort him out. He's still a suspect, but I highly doubt that his reason for being here was because of that. She speaks of him plainly, but with repulsion. I consider asking for some elaboration, but I stopped myself. I don't want to assume the reason for his late-night visits, but it's difficult not to at this point. What else could someone be doing, stalking around in the darkness of night, frequently and visiting another, let alone an assassin that doesn't take their life? Night commander she might be, but her tone implies that even her skill sets can't fully squash certain individuals, questionable as they are. Grimacing, I changed the subject to give her some mercy. That's all, Commander. She nods curtly. Should all go well today, you'll resume your post after the summit. She pushes off the table and nods to the door. The others have been informed of the plan. Find our charges down the hall in one of the lofts and let them know we'll depart soon. My time in Novus has largely been uneventful. It's been so long since I've been put in a place that says my life is being put on the line. Part of what makes Novus so strange, however, is its military, and the incident report has been remarkably clean, or edited to be so. Yet with how tight-knit Olivia runs things around here, I suspect that it might actually be less of the latter. For all the stories of the Harbinger and the fear her name invokes, she protects her quarry with indifference in her voice or not. I turn to leave quickly and make for the destination she noted, her words repeating in an endless loop in my mind. It's getting a cough drop. It helps with my throat. I deliberately have a flavor I like. So it should be one I don't like, so I don't know why I mention much, but oh well. I find the loft soon enough and meet with those I'll be accompanying. I'm not surprised to find Lady Masha and Ambassador Veritas amongst the group, both of them significant figures within the palace. In a group removed from them are other esteemed nobles who are clearly exasperated and brimming with nerves, their restlessness palpable. The ambassador from Bithris is with them, the distinctive look and silhouette of their robes setting them apart from the style of the Novian crowd. There's a hum chatter in the various corners of the room, and no one even so much as registers my presence yet. Oh, is it speech time? How fun! Lucian spots me and addresses me openly, the room pausing in its tracks as all inhabitants turn in awkward unison to look in my direction. My jaw squares and my lips set in a thin line. I look to Ambassador Veritas only to find them smiling warmly. They sit with legs crossed and one bouncing like the excited tail of a content cat. I am here to inform you that the speech will commence soon. Please wrap up any business you have. We leave in a minute's time with others and the Knight Commander. Across from Lucian, Masha stands from her seat, a complicated look on her face. The others turn back to their business, sighs and note tones of exasperation on their lips. I'm sure they'll be prompt. They don't wish to be here either. Is that so? I couldn't tell with the sheer enthusiasm they greeted me with. I'm at fault for that, I'm afraid. The demon chuckles a little at their admission. Be at ease, fair knight. There's no appropriate way to approach this. All news is bad news, and the good news is never enough for them. A swift conclusion is all that we can hope for. This is just business. Teasing they may be, but I can tell that they mean no harm in their interjections. With how drab their companions are, a sense of humor seems a reasonable way to cope. That I can at least appreciate. They don't feel emboldened to be out in the open without their rulers present. As if to confirm her words, I see out the side of my peripheral someone giving her a sideways glance that isn't anything short of annoyed. She smiles thinly. I know them for what they are, they just don't like to hear it. So it was seen. You were already informed that they would not be making an appearance, as I'm sure you already know. Are either of you to deliver the speech? Maja shakes her head. Not us. No, the honor goes to our dignitary from your home country. We can only assume that their choice is to show how firm their belief is in our foreign allies. An olive branch, not yet broken, if you will. It's reassuring to her to hear that the choice is to prove that Novus will not turn its back on their allies first, but still worrying that might indicate signs of an internal struggle. I hope this gives you some relief and directs fewer suspicious looks your way. Their genuine concern has me at a loss. In light of all that's happened, Maja is consistently kind. To you the same, my lady. From what I know and have heard of you, I can only hope that your personal success hasn't given you too much grief. What you've heard? I nod, familiar with some details of the court archmage and her impressive induction to the palace halls. I know that you didn't use your house name to enter Novus's court and allowed yourself a fair trial without the what? She chuckles merrily, a hand over her mouth. Bluff is certainly a way to describe it. Not everyone can say the same, and I know not everyone is impressed with such a feat. It's hard work. Her smile widens, and with it melts away some tension. Thank you, Ehab. It hasn't been terribly, but some could do to appreciate hard work and see the value in it rather than find envy. It's times like now where building strong allies should uplift us and not divide us. After all, we're all captive in this dilemma, including you and them. Let us continue to be better. I nod, a smile of my own finding my lips. However, I see that Lucian has an interest in our conversation, their face cradled in their hand, eyes darting back and forth between us. Yes? They shrug half-heartedly. Oh, nothing. I'm just observing a very optimistic conversation. Something we so sorely need right now. Right. It's likely you need to move, I suppose. We can have more of these conversations after the speech. She puts out a hand to Lucian, and they take it, rising and nodding a fond thank you to her. I watch as Masha separates herself from the group, heading for the door and smiling sweetly at Lucian and I as she clutches the frame. You won't be joining us? She shakes her head, a strange, sad expression blooming across her face. I'll be absent for the speech, but I wish you all the luck. I nod politely at her departure and hold on to a silent hope that these pleasantries will continue after the announcement. Now, the march is upon us. Let us depart. So, we've talked to Olivia several times. You do talk to Olivia a lot the night, for obvious reasons. Lucian, Maja, both several times. You're all living at the castle. What do you expect? We've talked to Raiden, we've talked to Rue. How are we missing? Eric. That'll come. The sun rises high above the entire kingdom and the bells have tolled. The march to the square was, as described by Olivia, direct without caution. Yet, as we made our way to the summit, no shadow or secret alcoves revealed any attackers. Only now am I aware of how much the light beats down on me, and sweat from nervous anticipation is not a fine lubricant for armor. No. We see the stage set before the crowd, and I couldn't be happier to finally stop. The formation fans out, and, lucky for me, my station's in a shadow of some taller buildings. The courtiers take their seats laid out for them in front of the sea of people, some shuffling dejectedly in places they clearly don't favor. Their displeasure is a privilege at this point. They skip their lives and live on to complain about the seating arrangement. So, once I lay eyes on the masses, the scope of protecting the kingdom truly dawns on me. There are a hazy blur of bodies, all crammed together and awaiting what news befalls their kingdom. As is customary, they must first suffer to hear the praises of our gods and mercy from the lips of some corpulent lord. The man is excitable, and his handle for persuasion suffers, so he bellows loudly the protection from the pantheon. Oh, great is the power of our gods, felt in the strength of our lord and lady. Oh, how wondrous is the... And then I find myself tuning him out quickly. He doesn't catch a break. I can only offer to scan the horizon for who's attending and how our wards fare, but nothing looks to be unusual or out of place. People are just bothered, mostly. It's hard to say who our potential attacker or attackers are, because even the most unassuming figure can belie what truly lies in our hearts. They come in droves, like a tributary with us at their end. The amount is massive, but before they can fill the space entirely, I think I recognize someone. A mess of blonde hair and a thick stature with a posture that implies inebriation. He wanders against the current of the crowd to any path that might lead him away. He shoulders a couple of people in his wake, and I recognize the man to be Eric, though there's something of a hurry in his step as he escapes. Bruce spoke of him to not wanting to be involved with his previous employers, and he makes it obvious. Recalling my patrols, I think the direction he heads to might be the edge of the city bordering near the woods. If time is on my side, I might be able to catch him post-speech. There's a brief pause, the winded raving from Lord Edlin coming to a close. His bow is exhausted and clumsy, gut-faced like he's bereft of all air. When he sits, he ushers on the Vitzian ambassador almost pleadingly. They look reticent when they rise, and I feel a surge of sympathy for them. As Lucian said, there's no right way to approach this, but I hope it's with some grace. With more confidence than their predecessors, they climb the steps to the platform, rising to the occasion. Something about how they hold themselves already speaks in a way not yet spoken. As frightening as last night's events had been, it's only natural that great leaders like his and her majesties of this fair kingdom have the most formidable of enemies. It's also critical that in these times of such adversity, we keep our senses keen, our bridges strong, and our friends close. Of this, our two kingdoms, Vespris and Orontis, are of one mind. Long have we been one another's benefactors, and longer still have we been friends. Ortesian wealth is the joy of Vespris, and Vesperian grains gladly flow to fill your coffers. So it has always been, and so it will always be. I have no doubt that some among you attended with suspicion and unease in your hearts. Here are my word and the promise of Vespris within. Whatever strife may attempt to visit your people and your esteemed monarchy as it did recently or in the future, the Vesprian spirit and friendship remains at your side. The formality neither speaking of future definite plans or of the moves to be taken, whether that be due to the crown not wanting to announce its hand just yet, or that they feel the kingdom doesn't need to know. Yes, wise words, Ambassador. Truly we, the people of Orontis and of Novus, are assured. That was Rahim, by the way. He congratulates his speech enthusiastically, but it's likely because he's the only one that does anything. I look upon the crowd as the ambassador leaves their stage, and they look indifferent, perplexed. There are many faces in the crowd that it's difficult to truly discern what they wear as a whole. Yet for the lack of reaction, there's no rallying cry that declares upheaval or unrest. No united mention of a revolution amongst their ranks. Perhaps there are no feelings that they have for their rulers that begs one. Regardless of my thoughts, the speech comes to an uneventful close, and the knight commander clicks the sheath of her sword to the ground. A loud knock-knock to clear those doldrums and rally the rest of us to gather and leave. We seek to use the same path as we entered, and again, nothing comes to take our lives. The tension present before has receded considerably, and the shuffling from the nobility is faster. Someone stalks closer in step with me, and I do a double take. The same robes, glittering jewelry, and long, inky black hair, but this individual has tawny skin and is quite noticeably missing their horns. My lips move to speak, but Lucian beats me to it with a theatrical whisper. What a shock! The demon has a trick to appear as a normal human. And just like that, my mouth shuts and I feign indifference. Their bright eyes look briefly back to the podium and then to them me. Pretty words, bloody history. Long have the king and queen prospered, the words are at peace, but their hand is strong. Their means of achievement might not align as a speech tells. Remember what I said last night, fair knight. And with that, they're gone. When we reach the palace grounds, the courtiers are excused to their rooms. They separate like an excited flock. Sounds of relief and more than a few oaths like the gods, not so sadly uttered. Livia summons to report to the king and queen immediately to brief them on the reception of the speech, but not before I catch her talking to Maja in hushed whispers. The archmage comes out to greet us with a smile upon our return, and Livia stands stalwart in the doorway of her chambers. I don't see Livia's face, but I do see the look Maja gives her, one of concern. A warmth there that Livia doesn't seem to reciprocate. Quick and quiet words are exchanged between the two, but I cannot hear. But Livia remains as curt as always and closes the door softly behind her when Maja excuses herself. Lucian, in their prayer form, has stalked off to somewhere of their own fancy, as they tend to do, and as it comes to women, they'll be just by themselves, more than most probably. So it would appear I'm being left to my own devices. There hasn't been a call for keepers of any kind, nor has there been any order to keep everyone under house arrest. Interesting. Is this a calm after the storm? It is. Time to patrol. Again. It's like when you work, there's always this one job that you have to do. If there's nothing else to do, you do this job. And a lot of places that's sweet. That's what I did when I did theater in college. I was basically just part of the tech crew. So when there was just nothing else to do, we would sweep because there was always stuff to sweep up. As repetitive as such a duty can be, it leaves me an excuse and precious time to hopefully finally find a certain commander. So again, this is the last conversation. Sir Eric is hardly difficult to find, thankfully. I thought I'd seen him steal off into the edge of the city, maybe the woods, if he hated the show so much. It's likely I missed him, and yet there he stands at the base of a tree within town limits, his arms crossed, the harsh sunlight rays beating down upon him. He squints at my approach and huffs, almost as if he expected such company. Don't I recognize that shiny speck blinding me? You're the knight from earlier. Did that rousing speech steal your resolve that I'm your assassin? I'm hardly 10 paces from him, and already the ire dripping from his voice is palpable. He idly flicks a grasshopper off his tunic and grunts when it relocates itself onto his breeches. There's not much I could do about his feelings for the night, so I try to approach as kindly as possible. I only came to ask him a question. Of course he did. That was a mumble. He says it so flatly, barely a semblance of care, and then averts his gaze to anywhere else but me. Rue did emphasize that he wouldn't be enthused to speak to me, and it would appear that they were right. I've already spoken to Rue. They were quick to defend you. His eyes fluttered shut, and he sighed. Of course they did. When they opened, his demeanor softened, something like sympathy shining in bright amber. There we go. They also told me that you wouldn't want to speak with me. I don't. Well, all right. But I figure you're going to ask your questions anyway. My bones felt like they must creak from how rigid I'd been until this moment. I was fully expecting him to tell me to piss off and to leave empty-handed. I almost made a thank you for him apparently humoring me, but making that as short as possible probably suits him better. I only want to teach you for myself, and I spoke in both calmly and in hushed, harsh voices. Wow, you're a dramatic one, huh? I mean no offense, but I suppose there's a little more flair to those words than necessary. He snorted, grumbling and mumbling about how hard simple talk is to come by. Believe it or not, I came looking for answers, a solution. I don't know you, only what I hear. The stories are secondhand, not necessarily the truth. My choice to come to you was not because I believed you to be the assassin, rather that someone had mentioned you, rather worriedly, I might add. Eric's face shifts into one of the further exhaustion mingled with annoyance, the whites of his knuckles paling when the skin pulls back. So worry, is it? Afraid I'll be the beast with an open maw? It doesn't sound like that. More, she was worried for you, specifically. Something in him stopped. He's been brusque until now, yet my words strike a chord with him. She who? The words were not for me, but they have knights spying now? No. Gods above help me. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but during my patrol to secure the palace, I overheard some of the courtiers speak of you. It wasn't an accusation. It was a conversation that felt reassuring. Masha. Yes, what? I haven't said her name or even implied it, but he speaks it in certainty. I couldn't deny it was her, but it's incredibly unlikely the palace would open its doors to simply affirm his words. Masha is the only one in that place that would give up piss about me. For anyone else, I'm just juicy gossip for the vultures. You sound certain. I am. There's no room for doubt. His hard gaze assures me of that. She's a kind woman, kinder than I've ever known, and more than this kingdom deserves. You'd be hard-pressed to try and tell me it was anyone else. There's a word missing there. She shouldn't worry. It's more than I deserve. The manner in which he speaks about the archmage is with reverence. He looks weary in a way that seems to take him to some far-off place. There's something in his voice that sounds almost like, you knew her well, I take it. His eyes softly closed, and when they opened, he looks different. Obvious, is it? We were lovers once, she and I, from the sunrise till the sunset. Can't say if the kingdom was any better then, but then everything felt better when we were together. Oh, love. Sounded a lot like love. We sought for better things, better days. It felt like there was a real, genuine effort for change, that the people we served tried for better. But me being sick in the head and sick in love didn't see the big picture, which is, the kingdom doesn't give a shit about us. He steps forward, his mouth a hard line, while he grits out his next words. Novus is strong because it doesn't care. It's a ruse, a joke. My story is that I failed to follow orders, nod my head, and go along with murder. When I pledged my life to the crown as a knight of Novus, I promised to bring order and honor, not to spit those beasts like feet like poison had welled up on his head. Not whatever this bullshit is. There's a heavy silence that follows. From irritation to accounts of a deep love to utter revulsion, Eric tilts his side animatedly. He doesn't come off as the kind to throw a theatrical display to convince me, nor does he divulge specific details of his mission. Watching the shift in his behavior just tells me that I'm looking at the aftermath of a very broken man. Almost done. For all his anger, though, he sighs and leans back against the trunk of the tree. He closes his eyes and takes a moment for himself. When they look back, something in them resets, calms even. I've said that I didn't want to talk to you, and yet I've raved at you like a boy when he takes my drink. The boy? A little snake that likes to poke bears, even when this particular bear is not having it. I see. It's just a guess, but I think this boy might be the friend Rue had mentioned earlier. And I hope people have figured out who that friend is. Ask your questions, Knight. You want to know if it was me, right? Embarrassingly enough, I hadn't given much thought to what that question might be. I did want to know if Eric would do it, but he's the only one with a descriptive testimony of what might be a suspect. I know less of the kingdom than I thought, and even less now. Let me ask you this instead. Would you do it? I would. The answer comes immediately, dismissive and uncaring. I would, if I were a man that thought it would change anything for the better. Blood for blood, some might say, but we don't need murder as solving our problem. Especially if that means making more problems for Maja. His voice is quieter again. The vitriol in his tone doesn't touch her name when he utters it. If I'm to believe you, who do you think would? Eric shrugs noncommittally. Can't say. They were good enough to escape, so I doubt it was any common folk. Either I could say you try to ask the proper assassin yourself, or you start thinking about who you trust in the palace. I catch a scoff in my throat. Technically, I did ask an assassin some questions, but not the ones I would have wanted to in the moment. And leaving us building, cut our little meeting short. Eric does at least provide me with something to think about. It's possible that the assassin could have escaped, or that they haven't left at all. The latter goes over my head, though. It's not like me to investigate the lords and ladies, but this is to be my home indefinitely. I can't imagine much is present for you, but thank you for answering my question. My tone shifts into one of practiced authority when I address him. That will be all. I hope the rest of the day treats you well. He scoffs the salute I give him, and arms folded across his chest again. Back to business again, are we? What's your investigation shown you? No solid leads right now. Consider yourself off my list. At least now I can be glad you won't ask any more questions, though. So I've got a question of my own. Two, actually. What's your name? Ihad, number 2. Why do this? Why ask me anything? Why not just turn me in and get yourself a pretty ticket to the laps of luxury? There's a bitterness there, but also genuine curiosity, perhaps even a hopeful response from one night to another. As he said, it solves nothing. I could turn you in, but this is my choice. I want to help, but I don't know enough. As I told Rue, I came to give a potentially innocent man a chance, and I did just that. Your story doesn't sound falsified, but it's not within my power to decide. The decision to arrest you is more than just that. It's putting behind bars a man of significant influence, one that's yet to be forgotten. The freedom given to you might taste bitter, but the kingdom's stillness to involve itself with you might very well be intentional. I can't make you believe that my interactions are for the well-being of the kingdom, but I hope that this can at least assure you that I'm weighing my choices. Take it as you will. Eric inclines his head, looking at me, pondering. A safe choice. Guess I keep my head for another day and swim in the swill. You actually enjoy the tavern drink? I'm a drunk. You really think I'm in it for the flavor? Fair enough. I've never tried it. Don't. Eric turns his head to the sun and nods. Looks like it's about time you head off. The sun sits high in the sky. A clear blue expanse no matter where you look, and I'm not sure what he means. Sun is still up. Night means you still got a whole lot on your plate. I answered your questions and you answered mine. More or less. He continues to stare me down. No indication of what he thinks of me after that brief exchange. Eric is rather unapproachable, to say the least. But I did the baseline of what I could do. I'm doubtful it improved our relations, but I leave without having felt it damaged our rapport. He's right, though. I'm not sure how much time has lapsed since my time here. It's unlikely another night or even my squire would think to find me here. Rather than invite the ire of the night commander, should her meeting be over before I'm back, I better dash. Another time then. We'll see. Turn on my heel and leave Eric to his privacy. As the wind surges back to the past, I can't help but think of the irony of that feeling. That a man like Eric, despite near being tickled by drink, can start anew. Appearances aside, the former knight doesn't look incapable. I had thought to ask him what he's been doing since his dismissal, but still looked familiar with the sword where there was one strapped to his back. If Novus is as intolerable as he says it is with his current rulers, why not run? He could make a new life with a new name in some other far-off land that knows nothing of him. Maybe that's a coward's choice and not one he'd favor. Maybe it's Maja that keeps him here, or a simple dream of better times that could be in his future. He can't. There's an inexplicable draw I feel to this place, and that might even be the same thing that keeps him here. Keeps them all here. The Knight Commander, the Archmage, the Demon, the Fae, even the Assassin. There's a kind of wonderment within these walls and in its inhabitants. We stand at the precipice of change, and as I approach the palace doors that swing open for my welcome, the feeling that settles in my gut is that Novus cannot wait for what we all have in store. And the prologue. So that's it for this. This should go up. Well, by the time if you're listening to this, it's already up. But yeah, thank you for listening. I'm sorry the stream got screwed up. I'm glad I figured out how to fix it pretty easily. The next should be the nomad prologue, which that wasn't a problem with the stream. I don't have to re-record that one. Yay! Okay, and there we go. Alright, so, yeah, that's it for the night's prologue. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording because I have things I need to do. So, just take care. Bye.